What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode.
This is deep dish, right?
Yeah, but let's get deep.
So I'm going deep on both sides.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations, Jerome Moore, and we back with another amazing episode because all of our guests are amazing. And we got another amazing brother here, Shawn Whitsell. And before we get started, shout out to the Baylor Company for sponsoring this episode. You know, if it wasn't for the Baylor Company, this episode wouldn't be possible, and Shawn wouldn't be here. And shout out to 312 Pizza, because the pizza wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them too. Let's before we get to Shawn, let's get on this on his pizza choice, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I preferably don't believe that fruit should be on pizza. So when Shawn hit me up, he was like, "Yeah, let me get chicken, you know, onions, pineapples." I said, "Damn, pineapples." You know, so it's a little more than that though. We got spinach, we got onions, we got pineapples. No chicken though. I think we got green onions, some other stuff. But it's looking good. It's busting. I haven't tasted it yet. But if you see me picking up the pineapples, just let me be. Don't
have you ever tried it?
I have. That's how I know it ain't for my palate.
Okay, I get it.
I ain't gonna say it's not good. It's just not for my palate. All right. And then we got a whole nother deep dish like version of this. And we might swap it out. I don't know. You never know. We'll see. We'll see. But Shawn is here. Shawn is a producer, writer, artist, poet, activist, father.
Keep hyping me up.
You know, he just organizer.
Me.
You know, he does so much. But we're gonna get into all of that. So thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Man, but I'm not thanking you for picking pineapples on the pizza. I'm gonna let people know that off rap.
You know what? You either love it or you hate it. I just happen to love it. I know people like, you know, hey, it's not for your palate, but it's perfect for mine. And I respect your palate. I appreciate you respecting mine.
You the guest. I told you, it's your world. It's your world. Mm-hmm. But man, I want to start off by giving you a chance to just, because you do a lot. You do so much. You've done so much, especially in the artistic space, which a lot of people, I think it don't come to their mind when they think of like social justice work, artists, right? A lot of times, right? And you do so many forms of it. And so, man, can you just give us like a abbreviated introduction of just your life, your journey, and how some of the things that might have happened to you occurred, kind of played into you becoming the man that you are, the artist, the activist that you are today?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Western Kentucky, a small town called Madisonville. Not a whole lot of arts there, you know, a little bit. But I always knew that, like, I wanted to be on stage. I knew I wanted to be in front of people doing whatever it was that I was doing at that time. So, so that meant like school plays. That meant like, you know, in church, whatever they had going on. I was always reaching for those opportunities to be on stage, to present. And then people saw, teachers and people in my church and community saw something in me, so I was always presented with opportunities as well.
Where'd that confidence come from? Because people just ain't like, I want to be on stage. I want the attention.
Yeah, I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't want to do that. So it was just like something that was just
innate.
Yeah, it was innate. Even though there were times when I was shy about it, where I was just like, you know, like if I had an opportunity, if I had like a spontaneous opportunity to get up and do something, I think about it. Like, I know I'm getting up here, but I'm a little nervous. I'm a little scared. I'm getting up here though. So I would do it. I would just hype myself up and get up there and then be the best feeling in the world. But so it was all about like entertaining at that time. You know, this is me as a little kid. And then as I continued to learn and have more experience, and I learned what it meant to be an artist. So it became adding like real artistry to that desire to be on stage. And so like as I grew up, I continued to just hone my skills in different areas, acting and you know, writing and performing poetry, etc. And life experiences have helped me to get to the point where I am now, where I'm telling stories, and it feeds into that activism. Because I remember when I always tell the story, when I was in the 4th grade, we had this essay contest, and it was about like, if you were president, what would you do for the country? And so I wrote about helping people who were in poverty, and I wrote about helping those who are incarcerated. And so that was that's where my mind was in 4th grade. So I knew my life has always been this intersection of like service and activism and then the arts.
Right.
And I remember writing the essay, and we were in play rehearsal at the end of the school day, and the teacher, a receptionist or something from the main office, that does the announcements, and they're like, so now we'll announce the winners of the essay contest. And I lean over to somebody next to me, and I'm like, I'm sure a fifth grader got it. And then they called my name as a winner.
Wow.
And so I remember. I wish I still had the essay, but I don't have it. But I just looking back on that moment and being proud that that's where my mind was at that time. Yeah.
Wow. At 4th grade, what was I thinking about?
I was thinking about all the regular 4th grade stuff too, dodgeball and everything else. But yeah, when it came to writing that essay,
man, in the whole like prison one is like that stands out because like you can see homelessness, right? I think that's like for any kids, you know you can ask questions like, man, you see these people on the street, but prison as a 4th grader, like unless depends on your proximity to that system. Was there anybody like what do you think that came from in 4th grade?
I saw that more than I saw homelessness, really, because I'm from a small town. Like in bigger cities, you can walk downtown and see people out on the street. I'm from a small town of like 20,000 people. So you didn't see homelessness like that, even though I'm sure it existed. Homelessness looks different depending on the situation. So, you know, we think of homelessness as someone living outside, but you know, people live in hotels and crashing on people's couches and stuff. So that's forms of homelessness too. So I didn't see that, but I definitely saw incarceration, not the way I see it today. Right. But I saw, you know, we had family members or people that we knew, you know, my friends, family members that were locked up, even if it was just in jail for a short stint. Right. You know, so I saw that more than I saw the homelessness. But I knew then my perception of people incarcerated was different, because I thought like everybody in prison or in jail did something to be there, and that's not always the case. And I always felt like, okay, they did something, so this is what happens. But I didn't know the system at play that made all those that made that possible on the level that it is. So
how did you keep your inspiration to continue? Because you from 20,000 people, you know, it's not like it's a big city. And I guess it can have an adverse effect, because if you're a smaller city and people know you're doing this, you can just get the whole city to support you, because you might be the only one doing it. But like opportunities though could also kind of be, smaller, a minimum, because the city is small, the town is small. So how did you continue to find opportunities, or of course you branched out of Madisonville eventually. How did you navigate that?
So I was a reader, so I was always reading books, and I was a writer. So when I wasn't writing essays, I was writing short stories and poems and stuff like that. So that was like my escape. I was always just inspired to write, so that's what I would be doing. Even when there weren't any opportunities per se, I was still creating something. Stuff that some stuff never saw the light of day, you know what I'm saying? But I was
Right.
always creating. So my inspiration came from that desire to say something. And so I don't know, like I just was always inspired, so I just
Right.
wrote a lot. And then we had to create our own opportunities. So when I just remember like trying to come up with like just putting together skits and stuff for school and stuff at church and like even in the community, like we would even do like dance routines outside, you know,
Right.
stuff, anything that could put me in front of an audience is where I wanted to be.
Right.
I was doing it. So we was like just creating our own stuff, you know?
Right.
And that was the best we had until like any formal opportunities
Right.
came along, which in Nashville you see a lot more of that, but like in a small town you don't. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, so in the small town in Madisonville, growing up, what are most people doing?
Just so sports is big, you know, any small town, like high school sports is big, and just regular everyday small town living. Like we didn't really know we were in a small town until we got a little older,
Right.
because we were just outside playing like any kid in any city, USA, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, you know, it wasn't until I got to high school and particularly my like senior year, when I was like, so ready to get out of this. I'm ready for college. Can we speed this up, please?
Man, how did the city of Madisonville support you? Whether it may be immediate family, peers, or just community in general, because, you know, it sounds like you was kind of one of few or one-on-one in your community or even in your immediate family to kind of take art in this way, right? So how was that support, or was that like, what is he doing? Why you just don't do this? Well, was it any of that having to navigate and process that growing up in Madisonville?
You know what? I got a ton of support from my family and my church, my community, because they just like wanted. They empowered me in ways that they probably didn't even know. You know, they saw something in me. They saw me going after things,
Right.
so that people were just willing to like give me a word of encouragement to say,
Right.
"Oh, if you ever need anything," or just whatever. And so, so yeah, like I was so uplifted by my family that I didn't know what that was like to not have that. You know what I'm saying? So like now, in the work that I do now, working with kids, I come across kids who don't have that support, and I cannot even relate because
Right.
I had it. You know, my family just always told me that I was going to do something great. They didn't necessarily know it was going to be the arts because I think they probably saw it as like, oh, this is something that he does just like a kid might play basketball or whatever. It wasn't until adulthood that they started looking at me like, oh, he's like, this is a lifelong commitment that he has. And I get a ton of support. You know, when I take plays back home, just even beyond just like somebody coming to something,
Right.
but just the support. You know, people pull me aside and say, hey, we see what you're doing, keep it up, you know, and that means a lot.
And so you eventually went to Middle Tennessee State University. We both alumni there.
Yes.
You was there way before I got
Way
there.
before you got there. We ain't gonna talk about the years.
How man, how was that experience, and how did that play into your evolution into like what you're doing in just acting and producing and your artistry?
So I wanted to go to TSU.
Okay.
I wanted to go to a school outside of Kentucky because I was in a couple of clubs and programs where I ended up on Kentucky campuses all the time, and so throughout high school. So I was like really ready to go somewhere that I hadn't been before. So I looked at some schools outside in other areas, but discovered TSU. It's like, oh, HBCU, not far from home. It's in Nashville. I like Nashville. Boom. That's where I was going. All the way up until really the last minute, I made the switch to MTSU. And I did that because they had a recording industry program there.
The RIM program.
Yeah, so I ended up, I started out in that, didn't finish it, but I changed majors. But that's what got me to MTSU. And I do sometimes, like, think about, man, it would have been nice to have the HBCU experience, but I would not change my MTSU experience for anything because I had a great time, met some amazing people, and I was determined, like, if I'm paying this money to go to college, I am going to get the most out of it. So that meant, like, I was involved in so many organizations and newspaper staff, editor, eventually became editor of the newspaper.
Wow.
Sidelines, yeah. So I did a whole lot of stuff. Urban Music Society, African American Student Association, a bunch of different organizations. Was on the radio. I had a radio show for a few semesters. So yeah, I got a lot out of it. So, but that exposed me to things that I wasn't exposed to at home, people I wasn't exposed to at home, and it just like helped shape me. And like even just doing open mics,
Right.
that wasn't something that I was accustomed to at home. You know, we didn't have that. So being on the college campus and doing poetry and open mics and even eventually hosting them myself. So that was dope for me. Like,
Man, while you was going through that evolution in your artistry and growing, developing, where did that and social justice start to kind of really merge and become like one and the same for you?
because I was always writing about the world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't really name where it happened. I felt like it was happening early on. Like I was always writing about something, an issue.
Right.
Even elementary, middle school, I was writing about issues, people too, in everyday life. But there was always like an issue there. So I really,
Man, that's fascinating, man, because usually, like, because these are deep things, deep thought-provoking ideas and issues and people involved, hurt, trauma, and that you just diving right into, like, fourth grade, like, yeah, let's get straight into it.
yeah, I mean, I get my level of sophistication with these issues wasn't what it is now.
Right.
Obviously, you know,
Right.
like and that's the thing, man. You learn by doing. So as an actor, you know, you get a role. You know, you want to be on stage because this is your craft and you love it. You love developing characters,
Right.
being on stage in front of people. But like it's like doing a play is like, if you treat it this way, it could be like a class.
Right.
So I say, like, your script is your textbook. And there's so much in there that you can learn about humanity. You can learn about yourself. You learn about these characters. You learn about whatever issues it is they're going through.
Right.
So it requires you to do research. If you want that level of performance that you see the greats give. You know what I'm saying? So it requires research, thought, introspection, all those things. So as I'm taking on these different roles, I'm learning too, and it's making me a better human being. So it's not like I'm doing this play and I do the play and then I'm on to the next. Like I've taken something from this experience, and so I'm growing as I'm playing.
And what I think is also unique, well, I think it might not be as unique as I think it, but I think it's unique, is that a lot of times, especially actors and performers, right? They can really perform and dig into a particular social issue, and then they kind of like, hey, I learned, and then let me go on to the next role type of thing, right? With you, just from the work that I see you do, it's like, no, I'm just not gonna just play this role in this character and just highlight it through my work. I'm actually gonna do the work too, which I think that's the unique part, like, to me. It's like you actually going to prisons. Right, you actually are working with youth. You actually are part of like community organizations that are trying to change policy, combat systemic racism, discrimination, white supremacy, all these things, man. So I think for me, it makes me appreciate you and your work more than it would if somebody can just play the role of highlighting what is actually happening, and then, because it's not for everybody, but it just makes me appreciate you, man. And can you talk about that, like this one, being on the stage or writing it for somebody to highlight and dramatize the things that you actually do and work with people that are affected by.
Yeah, so I have a one-man show called 23-1, and it's the number stands for, it's a play about solitary confinement. So the number stands for the 23 hours a person spends in solitary confinement versus the 1 hour they get of rec time, which if they get it, because you know prisons, all kind of stuff happens in prisons, but that's legal. You know, they get that 1 hour out and they spend 23 hours locked up, and so this was a show that I wanted to do for a while, and it was the perfect. You know, it's perfect for a one-man show because this man is living in solitude for the most part. And so I wanted to do a show like that because I wanted people who come to my stuff just to be entertained. I wanted to give them something to make them think, like, okay, you're not going to come to this show and be able to turn this issue off.
Right.
So I wanted to do something that's a part of my activism, you know, like writing a show about solitary confinement to show people how inhumane this is. Because I've watched documentaries and I've read articles about it, but I understand everybody's not doing that.
Right.
So how do I get to those people who don't know that people in solitary can spend years and years there, locked up for 23 hours a day? So I volunteer in a prison. I've done that for 7 years. So while I was developing the piece, I got an opportunity to talk to people firsthand, and they were like, "Oh, even though I had the story already written, they were giving me the nuances. They were like, oh, make sure that you pace or that you talk to yourself, or you know, they were telling me those things to add layers to my character."
Wow, and so they're reflecting on what they do. In solitary confinement or just in confinement lockdown for 23 hours and giving that to you. Yeah. So they even have to think through like, okay, what am I doing for 23 hours?
Yeah. One guy told me that he was talking to himself and he didn't realize it, that he had been talking to himself. But he heard himself one day. And he was like, man, I just said that out loud. He thought he was thinking it.
Wow.
But like that's the trip that it does on your mind to be separated from other human beings, not being able to touch anybody, not being able to talk to anybody, and so having their insight helps to add that extra layer of truth and honesty to the piece. So it's something I take great care of it because I know that I'm not just up there as an actor, but I'm up there speaking for people who are unheard. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that show is super special to me, and the reception that it got from the public meant a lot because, you know, people would come up and they would tell me stories and they would cry and, you know, like just how incarceration has impacted families and communities. And, yeah, so.
Man, like, I want to get on that feedback, man. Like, how do you accept feedback? You know, criticism and all those things, because I'm sure, like, you know, you do it long enough, you know, somebody say, hey, Shawn, you know, hey, you know, I think you could have done this a little better. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how have you been able to use those compliments and criticism to just, you know, transform and just be a better version of you?
Yeah, I'm sensitive, man. And I'll be honest, I'm like Erica, I'm sensitive about money. But I had to, you know, like I don't take. Really, it's all in the way that you give it to me, because like I teach in Nashville Children's Theater. Part of our curriculum is giving them the tools to give feedback that is constructive and that is that doesn't make people feel.
Not tearing nobody down.
Not tearing anybody down. So the kids learn that. So we're teaching them that at an early age. And so I think it's all about how it's delivered to me, you know? So, like, if you give me something constructive, if you tell me you don't like something.
When that's it.
Like, and that's it, it's like, okay. But I don't even know what to do with that. You don't like it. I don't know if that means, just like, you don't like pineapples on pizza, you know, so I could think it's a palate thing. But if you say, hey, I think your piece could be a little bit stronger if you do X, Y, and Z. And I've been in playwriting workshops where that's what we do. We bring our stuff to the table and we all give each other constructive feedback.
Right.
And it's not just saying, oh, that wasn't good or I don't like it, but oh, this would make it stronger, or have you
Right.
ever thought about this?
Right.
And so I'm totally open to feedback like
Right.
that. And people have told me things, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it like that.
Right.
Even plays that I've already done, you know, like I've
Right.
already put it in front of an audience, I've gone back and changed because somebody was like, ooh, this would be dope if you did that,
Right.
you know. And so I think as an artist, you have to be open to that feedback.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, what is the hardest thing about getting up on that stage, man, and performing in front of people don't know, complete strangers, somebody's got free tickets, who knows? What is the hardest part of that, man? Especially about topics and issues that are real.
Yeah, you know what? What's the hardest part? It's home for me. Like, I love being on stage.
Right.
So,
Let's just say production. Then what's the hardest part about this? Because you do more than just act,
Yeah.
right? So you in many different, like, you wear many hats, right? So let's talk about production, the whole thing. What's the hardest thing about? Because we get the end
money.
result.
The money, like being a producer, so like having, just having the funds to create the vision that you want.
Right.
Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. But like not having it pushes you to be more creative.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
So I mean, like if I had the hardest part is like if I had unlimited access to fund. Not it doesn't have to be unlimited. If I had a bigger budget, I could hire somebody to do every single thing.
Right.
But because I don't, I might be,
Right.
hammering some,
Right.
stuff together, and I might be doing my own shopping for props and stuff like that. So,
Right.
which I don't mind doing, but like, one day I'll be able to just hire somebody for every role. Like I
Right.
hire for the stuff that I can't do, like
Right.
somebody who designs the lights. I have a little bit of experience with that, but that's not my area of
Right.
expertise or my area where I like doing. I like coming up with the looks, but I want somebody else
to architect it.
Yeah. So, but as far as the performing aspect of it, like I'll tell you a story. So I directed this show, right? And I wasn't in it, just director, producing it. And then so we did it. We had a great run.
Uh-huh.
And then we wanted to remount it. At the last minute, the actor who played one of the leads, he's like the only guy in the plays. One guy, 3 women. He was out of town. He couldn't make it back. So I had to either. Nobody was going to be able to step in this short amount of time.
Right.
So it was like either we cancel this show or I got to go in.
Right.
I don't know these lines, but I know them better than anybody else would because I've directed the show. So I had to do like an intensive few days to like maybe 3 days to learn these lines that we rehearsed for weeks.
Right.
The character is blindfolded for most of the play. He's tied up for most of the play, and he's in one spot. And you never know like how much you use your senses until they're taken away from you. So like how much it helps you with like just being able to look into somebody's eyes to see where they're walking helps trigger lines in your head.
Right.
When you don't have any of that, you're just like, it's just your brain. And
Right.
I'm literally visualizing where things are on the page. And I can't look at anybody or
Right.
anything like that. And my hearing went up. I could hear everything.
Right.
And that was like one of the most difficult experiences ever because I was super nervous.
Right.
But to go out there, it took bravery to go out there because I almost backed out, man. I was like, we're going to cancel this show. And one of my co-stars, she was like, one of my castmates, she was like, you better get on the stage. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And it turned out pretty good. It wasn't
Right.
perfect. I wasn't expecting it to be because I didn't have enough preparation, but I did a pretty good job. And the audience, they didn't know any different. You know what I'm saying?
How do you? This is what amazing to me. Well, I know it's different like in movies and stuff, right? But with the lines, the like remembering. So I'd be like, damn, they remembering a lot of lines. Like in the when I think about the movies, I'm like, well, it's digital. They can stop, come in. They probably got cues and stuff. But when you on stage, it's like you live. Like it ain't no like, and if you do mess up, you got to mess up in a way that people don't know. So how does that like I'm sure you've forgotten lines, right? Like I'm sure you.
Yeah,
How do you manage that, man? You just when your mind just go blank and you like
Man, and it feels like an eternity, like seconds of blank. Even if it's not you, even if
Right.
it's somebody on stage with you, and you're like, say your line, or you're trying to, your mind starts to work. Like, what can I do to cover this?
right,
With film, which I've done film stuff too. You're shooting in short chunks. Like you might. It depends on the situation, but you might just be shooting a page and a half, or even a portion of the page.
right,
With a play, you've spent so many weeks rehearsing, and you want things to go perfectly. You want things to go as you have been rehearsing, but that's not realistic. But that's also part of the thrill of it too. Like when something goes wrong, and I've had everything go wrong, like stuff like a prop. Like something hanging on the wall fall, somebody not coming into the scene.
right,
One time we were on stage and this guy did not come into the scene. So like we need his character to push the scene along.
right.
He wasn't there. And then it was like, okay, he's just a little late. And then he still wasn't there. And he
Wow.
still wasn't there. And so we're just talking, making stuff up.
Improv.
Yeah, so you have to have that skill too.
Wow. I think I could do it, man. I think I could be.
I think you could. I think anybody could, man. I think, I think with the proper training, everybody's not a natural, but like
Right.
if you get some experience under your belt and, I'm all for putting people on stage, even those people who are unpolished or really green. I love
Right.
that because the arts is transformative. Like somebody told me once that she learned how to read better just by being in my plays.
Wow.
When I met her, she was, she was a recovering addict. She was fresh out of her, addiction, still going through the process. She was, didn't have any front teeth, like all of that,
Right.
and so she was like, I want to be an actor. And I was just like, okay,
Right.
here's my number.
Right.
And so to see her on stage months later, bright smile, made up, and
Right.
making the audience laugh.
Right.
That's success to me.
Right.
If I don't ever make millions, if I never, end up on the big screen or whatever, like seeing people's lives transform, that's what I do it for.
So, let's get deep. I done warmed you up now.
Oh, I thought we were deep. We ain't deep?
We ain't
Okay,
deep yet.
okay. Uh-oh,
We ain't
uh-oh,
deep
I'm
yet.
getting-
We ain't
I'm
deep
getting
yet.
nervous. Let me take a sip of water.
So now we're gonna bring up some issues that I have,
Okay.
and then I want to get back into your work.
Scared.
Into your work.
You-
Yeah, don't be scared. You better take a bite of pizza if you're scared. But now, when it comes to acting, actors, actresses, especially black ones for me, right? And I want your thoughts on this. I feel that black folks should not be perpetuating particular stereotypes, which are typically all negative when it comes to black folks, especially black men, or harmful when it comes to movies. And I started to think about this more when I was just living abroad, because the propaganda, people will come up to me and say, hey, do you do this? Do you do that? Have you done this? Do you know anybody done these things? And I'm like, where are you learning this from? How are you getting this information, right? This perspective of all black folks, right? And it's coming from our media sources, right? So I started to ask myself, what accountability do our actors have when it comes to perpetuating negative stereotypes about our culture, about our community, especially if it's the ones that we trying to combat and fight, with our voices and through social activism and things like that. But we continue to perpetuate these things and put it out there as if, that it's norm, as if like this is who we are and this is what encompasses most of our culture and community.
Great question. Can you give me? I know exactly what you mean, but I would love for you to say like an example of the stereotypes.
Well, there's so many. It's really a lot. But I think there are many of our black actors that may play roles that glorify drug dealing or drug usage, criminal violence, or just going to jail, like just like as if that is as if we all go through the same journey in life. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that immediately come to my mind that I think is perpetuated a lot when I hear the things like like the deadbeat father, black man father. Like I think those are some of the things that stick with me that I think are like continuously perpetuated, that we're trying to fight. I'm trying to say, hey, no, like there's great black fathers, but when I see it in a movie, it's like he's always like a deadbeat dad or has anger issues. I think Tyler Perry did a good job. With Idris Elba. I forgot the name of the movie though.
Daddy's Little Girl.
Yeah. I think that was a really great representation of like a black. But you don't see that's like how many people seen that? And because I don't think that was one of his biggest films. I think that was the one I appreciated most because of the angle and the storytelling that he took, and kind of void that he was filling with that. But you don't see a lot of that. It's always the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. Our relationship with police. Even just the angry black woman. So I think it's just perpetuated a lot in our film industry, in our entertainment industry, and then of course but that's just on the film side of it. I'm not even getting to music, but it's just on the film where people can visually see. And so I always just like, man, do we if we're gonna think bigger, as far as about the culture, not individually, could we just say, nah, it's not a role that I think I feel comfortable playing because of what it perpetuates that I'm really trying to combat, and I know that's not the narrative for all of us. But if we continue playing those roles, if we continue, what else are people to think? What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, creator and host of Deep Dish Conversations, and I know y'all enjoying this episode, but just real quickly, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button and hit that notification so you can be notified when we drop new episodes and interviews, all right? I appreciate all love and support, and let's get back to this episode.
So, man, I have so many things going through my head. So, one of those things is I talked about me being a RIM major, recording industry major, when I first went to college, mm-hmm. But I switched to sociology. And so it makes me think of W.E.B. Du Bois's concept of double consciousness that a black man has in America. And so that I'm applying that to a black actor. So as an actor, you just want to be able to play different types of roles, to stretch, to do something that's totally different from who you are, and to play like so many different aspects of humanity. That's the mm-hmm. fun part. That's the thrill. That's where you get something out of it. And then, but as a black actor, you have the weight of where we are in America. You have America's history of stereotypes,
stigmas, all that.
Think about the cartoons of those racist cartoons. So so you have so it's a delicate. It's a balance of trying to figure out I want to work and I want to do this role, and I want to make some money, but I also don't want to just do anything. Right. And acting is about choices, right? You're gonna choose what you audition for. You're choosing what roles you will accept, right? And once you accept those roles, you're making choices about the character. Kerry Washington said something years ago that has stuck with me. She said, if I give humanity to every role, I'll never play a stereotype. And so that's something I think about. That's something that really resonated with me. So,
break that down. What is that? Because it seems like that, that's not possible, in a way.
Well, I was so.
If
I
I
think
play humanity in every role,
If I-
I'd never be a stereotype.
if I give humanity,
If
if I give
you-
to every role. So like this is how I perceived it. It's like what we see on, like, even if you have like somebody who's a drug dealer, you see the you see a lot of times the one-dimensional drug dealer.
Right.
You don't see anything else. You don't see any complexities. You don't see any nuances. I don't know if you ever did you see the movie Moonlight?
Yep.
So Mahershala Ali played a drug dealer in that film, but he also played this father type figure to this little boy. He had redeeming qualities. He wasn't a monster. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
they gave him layers.
Right.
And Mahershala, the type of actor he is, he probably, really dug deep to kind of find the different layers to make this character more than just like your typical
Drug dealer role.
Drug
yeah,
dealer,
no,
yeah,
no,
like-
like he did his thing on that.
Yeah, so like I think it's the actor's job. If you're going to accept roles like that, then you should do the work to show a full character and not a caricature, right? And also I'll add this and then I'll let you respond. So like I think Tyler Perry gets a bad rap.
Okay.
And Tyler Perry does a lot of good for employing a lot of black people in front of the camera and behind, and you can't knock his hustle. Like, even if you don't like his work or don't like everything he's done,
Right.
he has built an empire.
Yeah.
But he gets
What's the bad rap? Yeah.
People, like they
He giving us some insider producing.
No, this is like stuff you can read. No, this is like, people, slammed some of his shows or some of his movies. Like, oh, he writes, his movies are about the same thing. He repeats stuff, and
Right.
or they criticize the acting, some of
Right.
the acting or whatever. But Tyler Perry is making the type of content that he has been called to make, that he feels compelled to make.
Right.
He is very different from Spike Lee, and we should have a place where because there's not enough
Right.
of us doing it,
Right.
we put the weight on one or two people
Right.
when there should be. We should have this spectrum
Right.
of black artists or black directors and creators,
Right.
where we can just pick what we like, so we don't have to criticize. Even if you don't like Tyler Perry, you don't have to You don't have to say, "Oh, I'm sick of it." Blah 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 blah.
Right.
You just don't have to watch it, but you have other things to choose from,
Right.
and that's getting better. Like, I've been like watching Netflix and Hulu and stuff more, and I've been seeing content that I had never heard of. So it's been encouraging to see.
I think the industry is being more intentional, but also I think it's so much independency now. Like, we both can go on YouTube and, if you got a camera, if you got a phone, you can create, whatever you want to create and try to get your message out and grow and learn. And that might be picked up by Netflix or HBO or, So I think a lot of that has to do with it too. But I still believe, and then we're finna get deeper, that Hollywood and the entertainment is just so, it's still dominated by white, not just by on the screen, but financially.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I sit there thinking about it, it's like, and we, this comes up all the time about the Oscars and stuff like that, and awards, and when it comes to these things of like black actors or people of color that don't get their awards or don't get the accolades that they deserve. And so me being who I am, and let's power the people, what comes to my mind is like, why don't we see many people of color or minorities when now it's open, like it's so much, it's open now. If they complaining about like the system of entertainment that they're in, if they complaining about just the discrimination that they have faced, whether it may be from roles or even financially, pay, wages, and things like that, why don't more of them just go ahead and say, well, I'm just doing my own thing then? Like, do like Tyler Perry and and you can produce, you can act, you can do your own thing because talent is talent, and you've been in it, especially if you feel like the gatekeepers, the ones that be are not allowing you to be the great person that you are, be your best, and you know it's all intertwined with white supremacy, discrimination, racism that has existed in Hollywood, that we know people speak about it. When are we going to see more of like independency in it, or why don't we see more of independency and just branching off from the bigger like industry?
I don't know, man. I think it's difficult for people who are in the industry and they have that like some level of celebrity, or they've been in stuff, different movies and stuff like that. I think it might be harder for those people as opposed to the people who are just coming up and doing it themselves and never experienced the Hollywood system.
Right.
Man, I don't know. I think it's like,
I'm gonna tell you who I like, who you interviewed. I think he dope.
Nate Parker. Yeah.
He's
a dope actor.
Man, his movies. I think the last two movies that he did, that I know he did.
American Skin.
That did. Now, American Skin is exactly probably what I would do. It was like I think that got swept up under the rug. I think for many reasons. Man, that was powerful.
Man,
I would want to. That's a person that I would want to talk to, because I think what he's doing is like it's so brave and courageous, and he knows he knows what the repercussions that are gonna come with it, right? And he does it anyway. And then when he did Birth of a Nation, Birth of a Nation of Nat Turner, mm-hmm. Another one. Yeah. They wouldn't even play it in some theaters, right? Yeah. And so, like, so like it's in some intentionality of blocking or trying to block those type of things. But man, I don't know him personally, of course. everybody ain't big time like you to be able to interview these type of people. You know what I'm saying? But like, man, from afar, I really admire that work that he does, because it's so much intentionality, and he's really painting a picture that many of us really want to act on, right? Especially American Skin. Like what black father or even mother wouldn't want to respond in the same way, and they end up killing them at the end anyway. Hope I ain't give it away to nobody, but it's been out for a minute. But like, even like, man.
Yeah. I mean, and
I want to see more of that.
Yeah, and one thing he does too is he has a program, a youth program, training young people to make films. So mm-hmm. I think it's about like passing down those lessons and passing down that training to kids in our community,
right? And
empowering them to. It's kind of like music is different now,
right?
So like it used to be, the record labels, they're still out there, but they don't have the power that they used to have. You know what I'm saying? So like. Now, if you look at somebody like Chance the Rapper or whatever, how his come up was just like so many artists come up and on the independent route, and then they have these label offers, and they choose to remain independent because they're like, I'm doing my thing, I'm making more money, I don't have to do any split, I can do partnerships, but I don't have to sign to anybody.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that we get to a point in the film industry that the generation coming up after us feels that level of empowerment, and they have the access and the tools to like earn a living, put their stuff out without using Hollywood, if that's the route they choose to take.
Man, is there a role that you won't play?
There is not a role that I wouldn't give consideration to.
See, you see how you try to give us this answer, y'all. Is there a role, have you said to yourself, regardless of how much money is on the table, I don't want no political answer, Shawn. I want straightforward to the point, all right? Is there a role that, regardless the money, regardless the accolades that could be involved in it and all that you would absolutely won't even give consideration to?
No. I don't think so. I think so. Here's some things. It's like the writing's got to be good.
Okay.
I'm not motivated by money in that way, but like
Right.
money's got to make sense.
Right.
I don't want to do anything that's going to. I'm not going to do anything just for money. I'm not going to do anything that my daughter would be embarrassed by. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that for.
We're finna get deep in a minute. I'm finna bring something up.
So like if it's going to embarrass my child or shame my mother, then that would be a difficult decision for me to make to go against that. Everybody else, not to say I don't care about what other people think, because I do. But like my mom and my daughter are deal breakers. So if there's something that they can't understand or they can't wrap their minds around it, I don't see me doing it. So
there's this narrative. And hopefully you can give us some insight, since you big time and everything.
Okay.
There's this narrative, especially about black men in entertainment and movies, about putting on the dress.
Okay.
You know where I'm going, about putting on the dress. And I don't know if it's true. I'm not in that space, but you hear a lot of people that are in that space, in that industry, talk about black men putting on the dress, and that is a way, a way, to basically, like, it's a way to take you to the top, but it also is a signal of you conforming, and that you like, hey, you laying down for the white man, you laying down for the industry, you laying down, you giving up your soul. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts? Because this is big, because especially in our community where, like, there's still a lot of homophobia, right? It's still this in the black community, understanding that, especially on the screen, being straight but playing somebody that may be a part of the gay community. What are your thoughts on that? And you have a daughter, you are a straight man. What are your thoughts on that, man?
So
do you think it's something to it, or
it's hard for me to it's hard for me to think. I grew up watching Martin, and
right,
Eddie Murphy,
right,
and like, and they would put on, they had dresses for certain characters,
and they blew up.
And they blew up, and so, they blew up. So, but then you have men like Denzel.
I don't think I've never seen him put on the.
No, Denzel. I don't think Lawrence Fishburne has ever. But then you got Wesley Snipes, who did Tu Wong Fu. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all artists and men who I admire, but they all make different choices. And I think it goes back to me saying, like, it's about choices. Like Will Smith, when he did that movie, it's a play. Sheesh. 6 Degrees of Separation.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't want to kiss a guy on screen, and they did it like a kind of a cheap way. They cheated, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he didn't do it because he was worried about his son. But I remember in an interview saying that he wished that he had actually done it, because he had, I guess, grown as an actor and had a different perspective, more comfortable with himself. And so he said he wished he had made a different decision. But it's like, you can only do, actors will say, oh, you got to commit to the role, whatever.
Right.
So if you can't commit, then don't do it.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do anything that's shaky. But back to your dress thing, I think that's up to the individual. White actors get to do whatever they want. And I think black actors should have that freedom. If you do it, you're gonna have the people that laugh and they do it.
Right.
It's the laugh and that's it. And then you're gonna have people that are like, oh, he shouldn't be putting on a dress. So you got to deal with both of those things.
That's hard, man.
But I would be a hypocrite if I was just like, because it never bothered me watching.
Right.
Watching the comedians do it.
Right.
I don't think I saw a lot of like dramas. I mean, what's his name? Bing Rames did
Yeah.
Holiday Heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be comfortable doing something like that, and I wouldn't
Right.
want to like do it for money, and for the people that represents. I wouldn't want to do a disservice to
Right.
those people. Like my boy, he did, and he's an actor. He's like out in Hollywood doing his things. He's in films and on TV shows and stuff like that. And he did years ago. He did a play where he was in drag. I couldn't believe it. You know, he's
Right.
like a bigger guy, masculine,
Right.
muscle dude. And so, but we appreciated his bravery and
Right.
his boldness. And,
Right.
he had on makeup and everything. We were cracking up, laughing, but we were just proud of him at the same time.
I think it's that double consciousness too thing that you brought up earlier, that we have to consider these things where maybe other actors of different ethnic backgrounds don't have to worry about. But because of our journey and our experience in the United States, there are things that we have to, that are weighing heavy on us, that like perception wise, right? Oh, well, if I do this, am I feeding into, these things, man? So look, our intern Caden, he has to, give me at least one question to ask the guests as part of his internship, right? Yeah. And so, so he sent me his questions. Let me find them. Here we go. So we got two questions. All right. The first one is, do you encounter people opposed to the work you do in prisons?
Do I encounter people opposed to the work I do in prisons? Mm-hmm. Not anybody that's ever spoken out loud to me. I do on social media. I hear there's that narrative that prison is not supposed to be a vacation and blah blah blah. You hear that,
right?
But the people in the community, I'm surrounded by like activists and artists and people with empathy. So a lot of people typically support that I'm doing that.
Okay. 2, the second question. Does giving focus to the past trauma of those who have committed heinous crimes hinder holding them responsible? That's a good question, Katie.
That is a great question. So giving focus to those who have caused harm.
I'm going to read it back for you.
Yes, please.
Because you're messing it up right now. Does giving focus to the past trauma of those who have committed heinous crimes hinder holding them responsible?
I don't think so. I think by sorry.
You know it's deep when you gotta take a sip of water. He said, "Hold on,
Pepper's got it." If I'm understanding the question correctly, I think that putting that focus, so the narrative has always been told by the oppressor. You know what I'm saying? And so to have those who have been harmed to be able to turn the focus around, like, no, I wasn't a slave, I was enslaved. This is your burden to bear.
Right.
And so that to me is holding them accountable. Now I know we're in a time where people have grown tired of seeing certain narratives. They're like, I'm tired of seeing slavery films. I'm tired of seeing trauma films. And I totally understand it. I think people should do what they need to do personally for their own mental health and well-being.
Right.
And so if that's not something that you can take, then don't put yourself in that position.
Right.
But I do think like having a Nate Parker or Ava DuVernay who was like, okay, these stories have been either not told or they've been told from a certain perspective. We're gonna take the camera in our hands and we're gonna tell a story the way it should have been told.
Yeah, I'm a big company. That's why I am, and that's what I'm moving. I'm moving into producing because I want to see more of those stories, specifically for me around community building, right? Because I don't think we see enough of those. We see a lot of like what's going wrong in community, right, and what people are not doing and whatever's happening, but we don't see like enough of like Shawn's and other folks that are out there in our community really building like I want to see more of that because I think like that'll help one, intentionally like highlight the oppression that people are going through and the systemic and all the things, people be educated, but also it's like, but we're not letting that hold us back, right? We're being very intentional about combating it and how we combat it, and this is how we doing it. And I think that'll help bring other communities together and community in the world together. I think if we see more of that and have more of these conversations, man. And so that's why I'm really like, I'm at that point like, all right, like I already know like how this gonna start and this how it's gonna end, because like you get to a point there's only so many other angles you can have on the same narrative, right? So let's get to a point it's like let's just get straight to the building and the power and the positivity of what came out of the negativity, right? That is, or the trauma and all that stuff, man. And so I really appreciate that. But that was a good question, Caden. Thank you, man. Thank you, Caden. Caden is back on doing the sound and everything, so y'all can't see him. But
that was a great question.
You're working with youth. You're here in Nashville primarily, but you go back and forth between here and Madisonville, right? Man, what is the future of like, you know, community around artistry look like, man? In Nashville being, you know, a growing city, and I don't know if Madisonville is still growing. Hell, people might be having to move out to Madisonville. Nashville,
right.
If Nashville keep it going the way it's going, man. What does that look like, man? How do you envision that?
Well, I want to see more equity in the Nashville art scene. Like me, I took.
Break that down.
I wanted to see. I started my theater company. It's called the Destiny Theater Experience. I started it in 2007.
Named after your daughter.
Named after my daughter. She was born in 2006, and then.
Man, I do some hella research. Man.
Yeah, man, you're a journalist. So I started my company because not only did I want to tell certain stories and as an actor, that audition process can be grueling. You know what I'm saying? Like you can hear a lot of no's. As a black actor, you go into an audition and you're like, I wonder if they're gonna hire any black actors for this role. There's no specific black actor. Right. So my chances, do I have a chance? You know what I'm saying? Like that double consciousness thing.
Right.
And so like, I wanted a space where we didn't have to think about that. Like we can just be, we can just be actors, and we can tell stories that are specifically about black experiences, but we could just be actors. So that's part of why I started my company, and in that process of telling these stories, some of them are about, there's some trauma in it, some of them are just comedies that we do, or some of them are just about love or whatever. That we build community through the relationships that we build through in the process of performing these shows. So we built a family that go beyond theater now. So like I love to see like two people that met during one of my shows, and now they've been friends 5-10 years now. You know what I'm saying? Right. But back to like your original question, I want to see in spaces that have historically been very white. I want to see more diversity in those spaces, and that's just not just black, but differently able, other races and ethnicities. Right. I want to see us empower. Kanye, I don't know how true this is, but it was an article that was like Kanye's doing a fashion show, the Skid Row fashion show in LA, and they're gonna hire some of the people who are struggling with homelessness for the factory, but also the idea of putting them in the show. You know what I'm saying? And so like I'm like, okay, yeah, pay the people to model and let them keep the clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like I want people to be thinking about people who have been, or groups of people who have been shut out, who are vulnerable, who have been left out of certain spaces. And I'm seeing that happening in Nashville. I see the effort being made. Okay. We got a long way to go as far as that's concerned, but I see the steps, and I can appreciate that. And I see the effort being made on regular TV too. Like I've seen the diversity in commercials that I've seen recently has given me hope. I hope they maintain it, and I hope it's not the gimmick.
Man, what role do you want to play in that here in Nashville, and I'm gonna say Madisonville too, because I know you give back a lot. What role do you want to play in that creating that equitable spaces and opportunity going forward, man?
Continuing to build so that I can like offer those opportunities on a professional basis. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my I don't have like a professional theater company. It's more like a community theater. But
That sounds better.
I try. Yeah, I like the word community theater, and I like community theater. But I also I whenever I have an opportunity to, sometimes actors are volunteering their time. Sometimes we have situations. I try to create situations where I can pay them as well. So it just depends on the project.
Right.
But so like continuing to build so that I can create more space for actors, not just black actors, but all types of actors.
Right.
But also like penetrating those other spaces. And
What do you see as the biggest challenges of penetrating those other spaces?
just because it's like, so like, if I'm a white director, I've lived in this white country, you know, and have had these experiences that have only involved white people. So if I'm a producer or director, I'm looking at it through the lens of like, unless the show is like about black people.
Even that though, you're still looking at that through a white lens.
You're still looking at that through a white lens.
Right.
But like, if you just have a show about people, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, it's not going to cross their mind. It's like, hey, let's make these characters. Let's make 4 of these 5 characters black.
Right.
Or it's always going to be like. Right now, it's kind of like I'm casting 5 characters. None of them are race specific. We'll cast this black actor. She's good. But the other ones are going to be white.
Right.
Because I'm white, and I'm going to cast the world that I see. So that's like 4 white people and 1 black. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like this woman, this casting director, this is outside of Nashville. She was talking about like how, I think she used the phrase like creative or edgy or something when casting. She was like, in these roles, I can be a little creative. I can be edgy. Casting a black person
is creative and edgy.
An Asian person is edgy. Like in her mind, she was doing what she thought was good, and that's better than somebody who's not even thinking like that. But it just goes to show you the world that some people live in. Like, yeah, it was like she was getting props for it, and people were talking about how progressive this was, and how she was even saying that in so many words. But it was really like, that's not
edgy. That's not creative.
That's
Damn, like you basically just came up with fancy ways to do affirmative action.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So this is like tokenism.
And,
you know
right.
what I'm saying? So like,
and that's why I think to add to that, to create those equitable spaces, man, we gotta talk about it more. Like we gotta because if it's happening all the time and we only talking about it sometimes, like then people gonna miss it, right? You still gonna get those inequitable spaces and environments, and that's why, man, this platform is like we're gonna be intentional about talking it in different people's professional sector and stuff, and it is what it is. And because hopefully when somebody's watching this and they know you and they're a white producer or a writer or just a non-person of color, they can have a different lens now because damn, I respect Shawn. I know Shawn is good work. I never thought about that, right? And might not want pineapples on my pizza, but what he's saying is good, right? But like, and so, man, I really appreciate you breaking that down, man. And I know you do so much more, like just in the prisons and here in Nashville in the community work. I know you do so much more, but I really wanted to focus on that industry and how all those things that you work on affects that, because I don't think it's talked about enough, or it's talked about from people we can't touch, we can't meet. And it comes off different. It's like they're complaining, or it happens at a time where they didn't get the deal that they wanted. And so now they want to lash out, where now here is coming from, I think, a more communal, articulate, intelligent, brave space, and man, you did it, man. I really appreciate you, man.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity, and I do want to say a couple.
Yeah,
couple
no,
quick things.
yeah, no. Say it's your
I
show,
I
man.
want to say that I see the work that my white colleagues here in Nashville are doing to create spaces, to create space where there was that wasn't there before.
Didn't exist.
That didn't exist before, or was very little. I've seen the effort in just the interaction in the conversations. It's not going to change overnight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like some stuff is woven in the fabric, and you have to literally say, okay, let me take that strand out. You know. And so, but I do see the work being done. It just has to be maintained. So it's like, when everybody was protesting in 2020 because we was all in the house and everybody wanted to get out, we saw George Floyd, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but it's like, are you still doing that work that you were so deeply committed to? And I understand things have peaks and valleys.
Right.
Everything ain't gonna be hot all the time. But
Right.
even if you're not out there in the streets, you should be doing something in the spaces that you occupy to make that same difference that you were talking about before. So yeah, I see the work being done. I just think it needs to continue.
Right.
And we can speed it up a little bit.
But that consistency of just that's why I'm keeping my foot on the neck of white supremacy. If you don't want to hear nothing about that, this ain't for you because it exists. And white supremacy ain't stopping. So why am I gonna stop talking about it and making people aware of it? And you might not catch it today, you might not catch it this year, but it might be next year. Like, damn, I've been listening to Deep Dish Conversations and I get it now. It might be something that hit the mark, or you experience something, because we have in all of our spaces we're affected by it. White, black, yellow, green, blue, whatever. Like, you're affected by it, and we have to maintain the intentionality to combating it. And one of those ways is talking about it so people hear it and they can open up their eyes, and you hear it enough, you'll start to be like, damn, boy, it must be something to this thing. And I want to end on this, but I want to give you the last word, man. How can people get in contact with you, work with you here in Nashville and Madisonville, or anywhere all over the country, because we global, we international. So,
first of all, I'm gonna shout out a little project that I'm working on. I'm one of your former guests, Don Diener, with the Choosing Justice Initiative. I'm working on a project with her and her company called Gideon 2.0, and what we're doing is we're highlighting the struggles and injustices of those who have in the Tennessee court-appointed counsel system. So people who have attorneys who can't afford to hire attorneys, so they're given one by law, but feel that their attorneys are not giving them
the best representation.
Representation or any representation at all, and the harm that it does. So people find themselves in jail waiting and not knowing what's going on. Their families suffer and all those. So we're working on this project to give voice to those people and their families.
Wow,
so I've been doing interviews and creating content.
Wow.
And that's going to be coming real soon. So I just wanted to put that on people's radar. Another intersection of activism and arts that I'm a part of. But as far as people reaching me, I am on social media.
Look, I gotta plug this too. If you ever going through a hard time, let Shawn know, because he's probably raised like $1 million in Cash App and funds to helping people.
Please don't tell nobody else. Hey, let me tell you something, man. Ooh, I was
man, you got a hella support system, man. Like, people, when you post like, hey, I just ran into this homeless guy 5 minutes ago. He needs $20 to go to get him something to eat. Can y'all help me out? He end up with $2,000. I'd be like, damn, he need to go into fundraising, because Shawn is amazing.
Man, I don't know. My network of friends.
That might be a real story too. Y'all need to go down this timeline.
Man, literally thousands or like hundreds people having trouble paying rent. So I'm just like, I'm gonna throw this out there, and my network. That's a testament to the relationship that I have with people, because people show up, and I'm just like, and people tell me all the time, we do this because we. This is a good thing to do, but we trust you.
Y'all trust you. Yeah.
So
if y'all see Jerome Moore needs some funding on Shawn.
And we don't even tell people. I don't even tell people anybody's name. So we keep it under. We keep it. Protect people's identity.
Well, hey, look, I'm putting it out there. I'm making
the next one is for Jerome.
But social media.
Yeah, Shawn Whitsell. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Shawn Whitsell on Twitter.
Okay.
Shawn_Whitsell on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Man, look, man, I appreciate you, fam. Thank
Man,
you
I
for doing
appreciate
this.
you.
Thank you for picking a pizza with pineapple on it.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna get off on you on this pineapple.
good.
But it was good though. It was good. And I got some pieces that only had one pineapple in there. So I was
Okay.
like, I was being strategic, like,
All
let me
right,
look.
all right. Do
But,
you think I'm definitely taking this?
No,
with
no,
me.
yeah, it's yours. It's yours. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Deep Dish Conversations. Again, thank you to the Baylor Company for sponsoring this episode. 312 for the great pizza. And like I said, we got two pieces. There's one in the corner that y'all can't see. All right, so Shawn, appreciate it again.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the opportunity. I loved it. It was a great conversation.
For sure, man. For sure. You know it's gonna be fire, man.
Yeah. No
All right. See y'all later.
Peace.